So when you're helping someone follow Jesus from lockdown, whether you're in lockdown like the Apostle Paul was when he wrote from prison, or whether they're in lockdown, the trick is to help them follow Jesus. I know that seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how infrequently we get that right. So if we were to ask ourselves how people actually change, how do people actually grow over time into conformity with Jesus? How do we acquire a strong family resemblance to God and His Son? Depending on the church tradition you come from, you might have very different answers. The tradition I grew up in would say you have to get them to read their Bible. If they read their Bible more, they will be more like Jesus. And I have to tell you, I love the Bible. You might notice how frequently I make a video that references the Bible. However, you can read the Bible a lot and make no contact with Jesus, and that's how you create a Pharisee. That's how you create a highly biblically literate, spiritually incompetent person. Jesus said that himself to the Pharisees. He said, search the scriptures. They're trying to point you to me, but you seem to be missing me. Another tradition that I've been part of would say you need to connect them with the Holy Spirit. You need to get them having particular kinds of experiences with the Holy Spirit and then operating from their very special spiritual gifts. I love me some spiritual gifts. You might notice how often I make videos about operating from strength. I'm a diehard fan of the Holy Spirit, but it's possible to be operating in your gifts a lot and be messing a lot of things up and going backwards in your spiritual formation. And that is a basic message in 1 Corinthians. So what is the point? What are we trying to do? Paul says something really fascinating in 2 Corinthians chapter 3. He says, this is how people change. You ready? Here it comes. He says, we all, with unveiled face, are beholding the glory of the Lord. Here's a reference to Jesus. And we are being changed from one glory into another as we behold him. And this is being done by the Lord, who is the Spirit. So let's unpack that. Who does the work of changing us? Paul says this is being done by the Lord, who is the Spirit. So the Holy Spirit, Jesus somehow present in and as the Holy Spirit, is working inside us to alter us from one kind of being into another kind of being. What's happening while he does this? What is the mechanism of this transformation? What are we doing while he does this? It's like we're looking at a mirror in which Jesus is standing, and our face is slowly changed to look a lot like us and a lot like him. The thing we're doing when Jesus is changing us through his Spirit is we are looking at him, looking at us. That's everything. This has even been borne out by neurological study. People change when they perceive someone perceiving them. When we perceive Jesus perceiving us, when we have an actual vivid encounter with Jesus, not the idea of Jesus, not just the words of Jesus, not the memory of Jesus, but with Jesus, the Jesus who is alive now. That is the central tenet of our faith. When we encounter Jesus encountering us, we are changed a little bit into who he is. Now, when different writers in the New Testament convey the same idea, that tells you that everyone in the early church shared this understanding. So Peter says the same thing. He says, if you have tasted and seen that the Lord is good, then desire that pure spiritual milk and pursue it. If you have experienced the goodness of Jesus, chase that. That is the mechanism of your transformation. John even says it. He says that when Jesus appears, we will be like him because we will see him as he is. We are changed into likeness with Jesus by seeing Jesus. So if I'm in lockdown, the thing that I want to do is I want to help people have genuine experiences with Jesus. My most powerful tool to that end is the question. Jesus consistently opened a pathway for people to encounter him, encountering them. And it was through his magic question, what do you want me to do? When I'm working with people over distance, the thing I'm always looking for is what do they want? How can I help them notice that desire, give speech or words to that desire, and articulate that desire to Jesus? And if they can't use words, how can they draw it? Can they hold it? Can they use their body? How can I help them bring their heart, what's really there, without judgment or censorship or applause, to Jesus? If they can experience Jesus experiencing them, they will be changed. I will have nurtured the relationship, not between them and me, but between them and Jesus, who is always present with them. I will have overcome the problem of distance and isolation by connecting them more deeply, explicitly, and consciously with the one who is always present with them in it. The first and most important concept to grasp in making disciples across distance is helping the disciple be Jesus' disciple. And the way that the New Testament tells us to do that is it teaches us to encourage them to encounter Jesus, encountering them. The easiest way to do that is to help them notice you, noticing them, asking them what they want. And when they're able to articulate or to see or to sense or feel what it is they really want, encourage them to take that to Jesus and then ask them about the experience of doing that. When we do that, we are cultivating people who pursue Jesus with their hearts and then reflect on the encounter. That is how people change. If you can remember a time when you experienced Jesus experiencing you, when you noticed him notice you, if you're brave enough, leave that in the comments below.